I'm also moved by it.
Yes. Yes, tell me about that. What moves you?
You talking to me?
Welcome back to the Pretentious Film Bro podcast. My name is Brady Odom, and I'm joined here with my co-host, Nolan Jones. And tonight, we have a little bit of a different topic to discuss. We're going to be talking about noirs. Of course, this is a popular genre people like to really dig into when it comes to November because people really love alliterations. So, before we continue, some people may not know what a noir really is or what classifies as a noir or even a neo-noir. And so I'm going to have Nolan kind of tell us a little bit about noirs, and then I'm going to piggyback off of that and kind of just tell you guys a little bit about what a neo-noir is. So, Nolan?
So a classical noir film is typically a film that was made between 1940 and 1950. These films are often all in black and white, although they can be in color. But they make use of that black and white, high contrast lighting, lots of shadows, lots of shadiness, because a noir is a very cynical film. Noir stories take place often in large cities with corruption, where there's greed, there's lust, there's crime. These are the seedy underbellies of Hollywood. In fact, the word noir comes from the French, which actually means dark film. So a noir is a dark film. These are films where the hero is very morally ambiguous. He's often a drunkard or a criminal of some sort. He's a man down on his luck, maybe a disgraced police officer, a disgraced detective, a down on his luck writer who can't pay his bills and he's trying to evade the repo man. These are the type of characters that are often the heroes of the noir. And unfortunately for the noir hero, they're often doomed. Things don't usually go good at the end of a noir film. These are films that are filled with flashbacks and told by voiceover from our leading hero. And perhaps the most important part of a film noir is the leading lady, the femme fatale, as she's called in the world of cinema. The femme fatale is that beautiful woman who often leads the morally ambiguous hero astray, leads him to commit a crime or to cover up a crime, often in the name of love or lust or passion. So these are very dark, very gritty films. They deal with the seedy underbelly of society. And they really force you to look in the mirror of how far is too far when it comes to things such as corruption, violence, lust, and greed.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like that definitely covers a multitude, too, of films. And maybe when you think of the word noir, a couple of films already come to mind, a couple of ideas, pictures come to mind. And I would say that that's a success for the noir genre, right? If you're able to pick out a noir just like that or think of one just like that, that means they've really accomplished at setting out what it is they set out to do. And so a neo-noir is not too different from a noir film, but they are usually more modern. They're definitely more modern takes, and they attack modern problems. So, and they also have the ability to do things where noirs weren't able to do it back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. So you guessed it, they're probably going to be a little bit more erotic. They're probably going to be discussing things that weren't even on anybody's minds in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, such as technology, right? The political undertones and overtones of those movies. They're able to usually take noirs and what they represent, and they're able to turn them on their head, or they're able to kind of just take their own spin on the noir genre, and they can make it funny, they can make it scary, they can make it exactly like what they were. They can basically just redo the noir genre in this day and age. They're also not usually filmed in black and white. They're usually in color, which I do feel like makes a big difference. But there are some that definitely have that black and white feel or that black and white tone, or maybe there's even just certain moments where they're in black and white. And so I think it's The Man Who Was Never There, or The Man Who Wasn't Really There. I can't remember the exact name of the Coen brother film, but it's one that was filmed in 2008 and released in 2009, somewhere around that time, and it's in complete black and white. But obviously they didn't have to. They just decided that if they were going to pay homage, if they were going to do a noir film, which the Coen brothers are arguably the kings of the neo-noir genre, they were going to just play exactly into the hand of what a noir was. And so tonight, the two films we're going to be discussing is going to be one that is more or less a classic noir. Not entirely so, but it is filmed in black and white, and it actually does come from a French director, Francois Truffaut. And you might know him for other pretentious movies such as The 400 Blows or Jules and Jim. And he is also known as like one of the Mount Rushmores of French New Wave cinema. And so he is the first director and first film, Shoot the Piano Player, that we're going to be talking about tonight. The other one is going to be Brick by Rian Johnson. And this is Rian Johnson's breakout picture. And it is very much a noir film for everything aside from black and white. And you'll see that when we discuss their dialogue patterns. You'll see that when we discuss the tone. You'll see that when we discuss the storyline, our protagonist. And so it is very much kind of like flip-flopping, because the Truffaut film takes noirs and kind of does whatever it wants with it, takes what it wants from it, and then does its own thing, where Brick is very much an homage to those noir films that Rian Johnson clearly appreciates and loves. And so, to start us off tonight, we're going to be discussing Francois Truffaut's Shoot the Piano Player. And so, Nolan, why don't, before we even get into all of the things we want to talk about with this movie, why don't you just give us a quick little like synopsis of what this movie is about?
So, Shoot the Piano Player is a film about a piano player, naturally. Charlie is his name.
Kind of.
Half. Okay, it's his new name
It's
that
his
this
new
character
name,
assumes. So
Yes.
Charlie is this piano player at just your local tavern joint, doing his job. He comes in, he plays piano, all the people dance. They love him. Until one night, his brother, his estranged brother, comes barging into his joint, and he says, "Charlie, you gotta help me. You gotta help me. These two men are after me. We took some money. They're trying to get it back. I need help." And all of a sudden, Charlie is pulled out of his normal life as this piano player at a low-down bar and dance joint. And now he's brought in the middle of this fight to try to get this money to protect his brother and to protect this money from these two gangsters who are after him. And
Absolutely.
his brother's
Yeah.
problem becomes his problem. So
Yeah.
now Charlie has a problem.
Yep.
So Brady,
Which could have been another title for the film, but they went with Shoot the Piano Player, which I think is a little bit snappier.
Just a little bit.
And another thing while we discuss these films is this section is going to be spoiler free. There's going to be different things we touch on. There's going to be different story elements, different characters, different lines, but it's not going to spoil any of what happens at the end of the films. And so, however, we will have a section, though, where we'll be talking about likenesses and differences and what they mean to the noir genre. And in that discussion, which we'll give you a heads up of when that is, but in that discussion, we will be discussing spoilers. And so, Nolan, why don't you just tell me, overall, you just watched this film, like
Just
right before we
minutes
started
ago.
recording. Yeah,
Like less
just before
than
we
an
started
hour.
recording. So you have a fresh, and I also have a fresh, I have a fresh stance on this film as well, as I just watched it a couple days ago. But yours is yours is really fresh. So why don't you just tell us, without even getting into everything, overall, did you like it? Did you not like it? Are you more positive? Are you less positive on it? And how do you feel it accomplished its goal at playing with noir films?
Yeah, so Shoot the Piano Player definitely plays with noir films. It is, as many French New Wave films do, they take the rules that were already there for these genres and these way of filming, and then they basically do whatever they want with it. So Shoot the Piano Player comes across much less as a traditional noir, even though it is in that time frame of when the traditional noirs were at their peak. But it comes much more as a play with the genre. It's much more lighthearted in tone. Our two criminals, our two gangsters that are after Charlie and his brother and this stolen money, play a lot like the burglars in Home Alone.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought
they're
that
very
up.
they're very bumbly. They're very
Yeah.
kind of fun and haphazard in the conversations they have with one another. There's really not a lot of seriousness. There's really not a lot of threat with these guys. And let me tell you, these guys, this isn't spoiling, but these guys could not shoot the broadside of a barn. I'm watching this and I'm like, you guys are terrible. Where did you learn to shoot? I don't know where they went to gangster school, but I don't think they passed, which may be why the brother was able to get the jump on them in the first place to take this money. But anyways, so Shoot the Piano Player plays much more with the comedic elements that are not traditionally in classical noirs as we've come to know them. It also plays with a romantic storyline. Remind me the name of the love interest. Is it Lena?
I'm glad that you brought that up. I do not recall, but I can find that out very
You can
quickly.
find out and let me know. This is it.
Yeah.
We're doing this in real time.
It would be Lena or Lena.
Lena or Lena.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they would pronounce it in French,
Right.
but that's what her name is listed as in this.
So as two white guys, we're going to pronounce it as Lena, and hopefully not offend the French.
And if we do,
this girl Lena, who works at this pub with him, Charlie, the piano player, and they start to form this relationship together, this interesting romantic relationship, which is a part often of classical noir. But the way that their relationship plays is much less that of a hero and a femme fatale, and it's much more that of two people that are at the start of a romantic relationship. So really, Truffaut takes the elements of a noir and he plays with them like a ball of Play-Doh, shaping it into something that is all uniquely French New Wave. And that's kind of a very broad overview of the movie. I know you asked my thoughts. I'm really not. When it comes to French films, I'm very hit or miss. I just kind of always have been. I've seen probably somewhere around the ballpark of 10. And there's some that I really love that are some of my favorite films in their genre or period. And then there's others that I'm very average to low on. With Shoot the Piano Player, I would say it probably falls into that second category. It's a strong film. It's Francois Truffaut's second film. So this is his sophomore feature after The 400 Blows. And I would not ever call it a slump. It's very entertaining. It's very quick, very fast paced. But it's not one that grabbed me. It certainly didn't grab me like this later film that we'll talk about, like Brick did. But it was one. It's a very intriguing film to look at. It's very beautifully shot. The music is wonderful, as you would hope it would be, centering around a piano player. Charlie's a very talented piano player. It sounds very good. There's a very interesting song early in the film that I'm actually curious to get your thoughts on, because as I was listening to it and listening to some of the lyrics, I was very confused. I was like, what? I'm not really sure what's happening here.
The musical moment, you mean?
Yeah, the musical moment. Right after Charlie has run away from the piano, and then the bar owner comes back and he starts singing real quick to try to make things happen so that people don't stop dancing. I was like, that's a very interesting lyrically type song. There's a lot of things in this film that, watching it as an American, you're like, that might be a little offensive. Just some of the ways that they talk to each other, the ways they talk around Lena, these bumbling idiot mobsters, some of the conversations they had, I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Of course, this was the 60s and this is France, so this is a wholly different time and place from our culture, which is really nice. That's why we watch those films. But overall, it was just I had, I guess, an appreciative reaction to this film. Shoot the Piano Player is not one that I'm going to rush out to watch again. It's not going to become part of my regular noir playlist every November, I would say. But it is one that, especially if you are interested in French cinema, if you like French film, if you have seen maybe other films by Truffaut and you want to see some of his early stuff, it's definitely one worth checking out. The story is engaging. The ways that Truffaut plays with the noir setup between the comedy and the romance are very intriguing to watch. So if you're wanting something different that's maybe not all doom and gloom all the way through, like a traditional American noir might be, then check out Shoot the Piano Player. You might find that you enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great coverage of that movie. And I knew after I watched both of them, because I had the opportunity to get them both in before you got to watch either of them. And I was already thinking, okay, how is he going to view both of these movies? And I already knew after I watched them both, I was like, he's definitely going to prefer Brick over Shoot the Piano Player. But before I go any further, I'll just, for you and for other people who might be listening, which one do you think I preferred? And it might surprise you, but it might not. We'll see which one do you think I would be more likely to go back and rewatch, and which one I just had generally more fun watching.
Mm-hmm. You see, the way you said that feels like you're setting me up for a trap. So it's either the trap is it's Shoot the Piano Player that you preferred and that you'd be more willing to go back and watch. But then there's also the fact that you could know that I know that that's how that trap would have been set, to where then it would be Brick, because I know you're a Rian Johnson fan already. But I also know you really liked Jules and Jim, where I was pretty mid and average on it. So I also know you're a Truffaut fan. So I'm going to go final answer, Shoot the Piano Player.
As the one I preferred?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I preferred Shoot the Piano Player. I did not expect this movie to be as funny as it was. I was laughing pretty much just out loud, and like it would catch me by surprise, some of the one-liners they had in this movie. For example, and I'll just bring up a couple of the lines.
Okay.
Very early on, speaking to the brother says, "I wish I was married." And the person he's speaking to says, "You say that like you mean it." And I thought, that is okay. That feels very like naturalistic comedy. It doesn't feel like they're trying to do a zinger. It just feels like there's probably some conversations, but in the context and the way he delivers the line, it is perfect. It is so funny. And I was like, okay, so we're in for like a comedy. We're in for a like actual like laughing like kind of movie, and that was very exciting to me. And so they also were very clever with their one-liners in their dialogue. The brother speaks to Charlie / I believe his name is pronounced Edouard. Edouard is probably somewhere around that, just due to the spelling. I'm not sure exactly how it would translate, but he tells him as he's playing at the tavern, he's like, "You should be like playing to packed out concerts. Like, what are you doing?" And his brother's remark is, "I can't be in two places at once." And I really enjoyed that kind of like, because he plays it off as kind of like cool and nonchalant. But as you get to know more about the story, which is very, very fascinating, I feel like this is a much more layered film than I anticipated coming into as well. I knew it was going to be like playing around with the noir genre, but I did not realize it was going to be as funny as it was. I did not realize it was going to have a really strong, interesting, and compelling backstory. You learn so much about Edward's character, how he was, who he was before, why he is the way he is now, what these actions and his family have done to him. This idea of, without getting into spoilers, which we'll talk more about later, but being brought into his past in a way that is really unfortunate. And just kind of the multi layers with that. And so halfway through the movie, you actually find out that Edward was married before, and you learn this, and you get to see what happens to his wife. You get to see what all happened with that previous marriage, but it was a very quick engagement and turned into a more like interesting marriage. And one of the things I noticed is you see that, well, he's no longer with his wife, but then you see my boy Edward bagging chicks left and right. My boy cannot be stopped.
Insane, right?
And he was very much like that when you're talking about the noir like sensibilities. This protagonist that just all these women want, they just crave him. And
Yeah.
I
Which is
had seen a
hilarious,
review
because
on
my wife was
Letterboxd.
like, he's not even that attractive.
Yeah, and I think that that's what is so funny is one of the reviews, and I don't even know if it's intentional, because usually in these other noirs, and it would be really rude to like cast him, right? Like, hey, we want to play on this trope of really attractive men getting women, and
Yeah,
we
that would
just
be
want you to
unfortunate.
we want you to be hideous.
That would be
And
really unfortunate.
that would be unfortunate, but it would be funny. And if he has a good sense of humor, he could laugh about it.
It's true.
But one of the reviews talked about like the fact that these, and every single woman in this, by the way, it is like beautiful, gorgeous French women, and it is
exactly
very
what you would
surprising.
expect in a noir.
Exactly what you would expect in noir. And this guy, the review said, all these gorgeous French women falling for a rat face. And I was like, you know what? Like, that might be a bit harsh, but he's not nearly as attractive as you would think. The charisma that he packs into himself, like, he's not even really that mysterious. Sure,
And
he's like a
not
little
charismatic.
quiet. Yeah, he's a little aloof, and that should, like, usually that's like a trope that women are like attracted to, is that like mysterious man.
Mm-hmm.
But it just is baffling watching these women fall for him.
Yeah, and he's not even
So-
he's not even a mysterious man. He's this very mousy, shy man.
Yeah,
So it's like everything that you expect these women to be fawning over, he must be incredibly talented. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to be his talent, because he isn't. Never mind, I'll save that for when we get to that movie. But it's got to be that talent. I mean, he's not an ugly mug by any means.
No.
But these women that are fawning over him are definitely in a whole nother league, which, I mean, I'm going to be the first to admit, I batted out of my league. So
Same.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, we get it to that extent. But I think that the other thing is too, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but the funny thing about this is that we're fighting for our women. Like we were not just like moseying through life and just they fell head over heels for us, and we were like, okay, I guess if you want. It was like
I was a lost puppy that she decided to take home.
Yeah, exactly, right.
I followed her around until I finally wore her down. She's like, all right, I'll hang out with this one.
And you were like, yeah, it's better than nothing, right? He's like, maybe. But I think you're exactly right. In fact, very early on in the film, you see his insecurity in his voiceover. He's walking next to a woman and he's like trying to decide if he's going to touch her, how he's going to like approach her. It's very interesting. It's very fascinating.
Yeah.
And so that part to me was like, okay, so who are we? Like, this guy who doesn't even know how to like be appropriate physically with a woman. And then you see not too long after that, just a couple scenes down the way, a woman crawling into bed with him.
Yeah.
You were like,
yeah, that
okay.
didn't compute.
You're like, what is happening? Which to me immediately intrigues me, because now I'm thinking, okay, something's going on with Charlie. Something is happening with Charlie. And I want to know more about who this Charlie guy is. And thankfully, Truffaut, because he knows that he's done such a good job building that intrigue, delivers on that intrigue. Yeah. And that's when I realized, okay, and the more I've sat with this film, the more things have clicked, the more interesting the stories become, the funnier it's gotten, the more tragic it's gotten, which we'll discuss obviously later on, in that sort of like typical noir approach of tragedy. really just appreciated everything Truffaut was doing in this movie. And my review is not that it's the best French film I've ever seen. And I would even say it's not my favorite Truffaut that I've seen. But it is just, he's just the king, man. I get why he's put on that Mount Rushmore of French New Wave cinema. That the comedy that he's able to bring, and it feels seamless. The story structure, it feels seamless, almost like a dream at some points. And the way he's able to have that story circle back to what it becomes later on is phenomenal for multiple reasons. And so I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it. I'm sad to hear that it wasn't like as it's not on the high end of French cinema for you, but for me, I would definitely say for French cinema, for sure, it's on the higher end. As I too have been hit or miss with some French films, but it is entertaining to no end, and it's very quick. That's the other thing too about this movie is it's only an hour and 20 minutes, and so for everything that he's able to accomplish, it proves to you to some extent these people who want to do their 3-4 hour movies, their 2 hours and 45-minute 3 hour movies that feel bloated,
Too long.
It's too long. Now, if you make up that runtime, like Barry Lyndon's a movie I think of, not a noir, but 3 hours long and it's worth every minute. But there's other movies where it's like you were 2 hours and 50 minutes long and I could have cut you by 30 minutes, 45, and it would have been way better. And so, hour and 20 minutes, very tight knit screenplay, very interesting story, and a mesmerizing final shot. Which I didn't know if you wanted to talk about, like some of the cinematography in the movie, some of the other things you noticed, maybe technically, before we move on into Brick and then discuss the thematic elements of it.
Yeah, we definitely can. And like I said, I just came fresh off of this film. Like you said, just like an hour and a half ago. So it's all still very fresh. Maybe if I sit with it longer, maybe some of those things will start to mull and click and it'll improve. I'm not sure about that. My first gut instinct's usually correct, even if things do continue to mull and click and I'm like, oh, okay. I can understand this now. Usually I can still pretty much tell within the 10 minutes of a film being over, 20 minutes of a film being over. I'm like, okay, this is how I feel. But I'm really glad that you enjoyed it because you got to give that different perspective of all the things that you saw and enjoyed and how it sat with you over the past couple of days as you've been able to think about it. So yeah, we can talk about some of the cinematography and some of the setting and shots. The piano, the way that they just filmed the piano work is beautiful. The dancing, as all the people are dancing there in that tavern and swinging back and forth and catching this couple and that couple. The final location and just the beauty of all of that and the sorrow and the tragedy of how everything goes down there, which we'll talk that in spoilers. Visually, this is a great film to look at. It's very visually captivating. There's not a doubt at all in that. Technically, it's wonderful.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that you see it that way too. You know, one of the movies, and I know you haven't got to see it, and I've mentioned it before, and I'll just say it as sort of a broad stroke. When people talk about having a low budget, and that's why their cinematography wasn't good, they're like, well, we just didn't have the money, so obviously it looks like this. That is an excuse for poor skill. That's an excuse for not understanding how the camera actually operates. It doesn't need to look like the brand new Steven Spielberg movie to be good cinematography. Now, that might entail good cinematography, but it doesn't mean that you can't have great cinematography without all of the money that goes into it. You just need a talented cameraman, a talented person behind it that's able to bring it to life in new ways. You know, one of the things when I was watching this movie is right after Charlie is picked up by these French gangsters, which I'm glad that you talked about them being like bumbling, like kind of fools, reminding you of like Harry and Marv, the wet bandits from Home Alone. I literally wrote down in my in my notes like that a French gangster will never not be goofy. It'll never not be such a funny, ridiculous idea to me. That especially the way they're portrayed in this movie, right? They kind of just tap into that stereotype and they run with it. And it is fantastic. But there's a scene right after they have I want to say it's Charlie and Lena in the car. The cinematography of that scene and the editing of that scene is ridiculous. The way he's able to move to each character, capturing each of their expressions, capturing each of their thoughts as they're speaking. There's a line about a guy, this I wrote down too. He makes the comment, one of the French gangsters makes the comment that he wore his sister's silk underwear and now he understands why they like it so much. And no one, not a single person in the car bats an eye.
Yeah, that was strange.
That sounds about right for him.
As if it was normal. Yeah, no, my wife made a comment about that too. She was like, okay, that's what's up with this guy?
Yeah, I was baffled, but in a good way. Because I found it really funny, and I found it even more funny that no one comments on it. I thought, what a ridiculous phrase. But while I do remember that moment, I also just remember the feeling, the tension that's not really tense because they're editing it like it's like it's bubbling up. Everything's about to explode. That's the way the editing is. That's the way the camera work is. It's close and there's a shot where you see Lena's hair in the frame. Okay. So you see Lena's hair in the frame. It's barely hanging there. And again, this is 1960 French New Wave cinema. Second film from Francois. And the camera, I don't even know where he placed it because that car is moving and it looks like it's in real traffic. Now, of course, it can be on a set. But again, with the editing, he was able to capture the car moving, driving on actual streets. Yeah. So the way they're able to put all of that together to really make this scene that's not tense, feel tense, and kind of bring that low stakes with high intensity together was incredible to me. And that's when I was like, okay, the more movies I watch, the more I try to pay attention to the technical things, the more I'm appreciating editing. I think that the editor is fantastic in this film. I think that they worked well with the cinematographer, and Francois really understood what his goal was because it's not a parody. It never comes across as a parody. It never feels silly or self-effacing. None of that. It takes itself seriously, but it's goofy. It's a goofy movie, and it also is sad and emotional, and you feel relationship drama in this movie. I just feel like the way he's able to like borrow from where he wants to borrow from and incorporate it into this like honestly really well made film, and it's like not as well known as I think it should be. It really blew my mind, and we'll talk more too about the differences and the similarities of the camera work when we talk about Brick as well, and the editing too, because they also have some very interesting decision making that they take in that film. And so I just was very appreciative of, like you said, the score as well. You had mentioned it very early on. The score is like traditional, but it fits really well into the tone of this film. And so everything about the Shoot the Piano Player, it feels like they hit their mark on every front. And at the end of the day, what you said, that the reason I feel like people wouldn't like this movie is because it just didn't grab them. And so you're someone who appreciates fine filmmaking, and you even acknowledge like it's a well-crafted film, but it just has to appeal to you in order for it to really take off in your mind. And I didn't know by the time it ended. I knew it was good, but I didn't know if it would like appeal to me as I continued to think about it, or if I would like find the flaws or find the nitpicks. But yeah, I just think it's a great movie. I really do. And I think that on every front, I am just really starting to appreciate Truffaut a whole lot more. And it makes me want to go back and rewatch Jules and Jim. And it makes me want to go back and rewatch the 400 Blows, which I appreciated both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm glad we were able to talk about that a little bit, because I do feel like it is definitely one of those movies where it is not talked about enough, should definitely be appreciated, and like it should be seen by anybody who considers themselves to be a film fan. If you have never even heard of like French New Wave, that's okay. That's the point of why you're even listening to this podcast, right? We want to try to put people on to new things. And it doesn't mean you're always going to like it. And that is perfectly fine. That's the best and most beautiful part about these movies. And even as we come into this, we both had our preferences. And I think we both were maybe already expecting to like one more than the other. Mine was flipped. I definitely was expecting to like Brick more than I liked Shoot the Piano Player, but that happens. Sometimes you watch a movie and you don't even realize what it's going to do to you. And yeah, Shoot the Piano Player, unless you have anything else to add before we talk about Brick and just sort of the synopsis of that, we'll go ahead and just jump into that if you're cool with that.
Yeah, no, that's good. Like I said, I'm really glad that this film hit you the way it did. So you could give more of this detailed talk and explanation and appreciation for this film. And I would definitely agree. You know, if you've not been exposed to the French New Wave or to Truffaut, really, Shoot the Piano Player is a great place to start.
It is.
I mean, it's a very easy film. Like you mentioned, time wise, it's an hour and 20 minutes. But it's just very easy to approach. For a pretentious film, which is what we set out for this film to be, our pretentious film that we were going to talk about in review, it's a very accessible film. This is one that anybody can sit down and you can enjoy. You can follow what's happening with the story. It's simple, but not simple in a way that, oh, it's bad. It's not a bad simple. It's the simplicity that can engage you and it can pull you along as the story changes, as he peels back those layers of the onion, as Truffaut does what he does. And even talking about it now, I'm starting to like it a little bit more. I'm starting to appreciate it more for sure. I don't know how much, as far as like a ranking, it's going to go up, but I am developing this appreciation for the film even as we talk about it, which is why we do this. Because thanks to your appreciation, I'm able to see and appreciate more. So definitely, if you have not seen a lot of French New Wave, if you're brand new to Francois Truffaut, Shoot the Piano Player is a really great place to start. It's very largely lighthearted in its story. It's not something heavy like the 400 Blows. You're not going to leave at the end of the film completely in despair. It's tragic, and we're getting there. But you won't be in complete and total despair. This is a very accessible, pretentious French film. So I would say definitely check it out if you're looking for something like that. If you're looking for a great entry point, this is a great place to start.
Okay.
And now we can talk Brick, because this is the one that I'm really excited to talk about. I've had a couple of days now to mull over it.
Yeah.
And this one, I expected to like this film going in, and I liked it even more than I expected. So I was thrilled with this film, which was really tragic because my wife was like, eh. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
You'll love it.
I'm going to need your help now to appreciate it more than I think I did. And I will say I'm still more positive than negative on the film.
Right.
And it took some time while watching it to grow more positive. I think this is a movie of a much stronger second half. And we'll talk about that soon. But before we go any further, just to give a quick little synopsis of Brick, it is about a teenage loner played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt who is going to investigate we'll say the disappearance of his ex-girlfriend. And he does so by going through like this underbelly, this underground crime ring at his high school. And so for Brick, if you would like to start, you may, but if you would like me to continue, I can continue as well. I just kind of wanted to give you the option to decide because I know you're more favorable on it. So if you want to talk first, or if you want to hear my opinion first and then come back and tell me why I'm wrong, or come back and tell me like why I'm right, but this is the better way to look at it. Would love to see if you'd rather go first or second. Excuse me, on this
To be
discussion.
clear, I rarely ever come out and flat out tell you you're wrong. But I will go ahead and I'll start in, and then you can give me some rebuttals, and then we can go back and forth on that.
Perfect.
So Brick is a film that I've been anticipating for a long time. Like, it's been on my list for at least a year and a half, maybe longer, and I just couldn't find this film anywhere to check it out. It wasn't ever anywhere that I could stream. It was hard to get a hold of at the library. So when we came to this idea to do a noir episode for our second November episode, I definitely wanted this to be on the list. I was like, that's a great excuse to watch this film. And I was so glad to have finally caught it. My anticipation and my hopes were not let down with this film. The score is the first thing I'm going to hit because that's the first thing we get in the film. It's perfect. Okay. The score immediately drops you right into the film. You know that you're getting this seedy high school underbelly noir feel. And even with that, the cinematography does exactly the same. Those two in the opening, they play together perfect. Where you've got the cinematography, the imperfections in the 35 millimeter recording of the film, the little blips and the fades and the fuzzes that come here and there throughout the film. It just adds to this seedy, gritty feeling of this film. And immediately it dropped me right into this world. And once I was in this world, I was in it for the long haul. It moves like a traditional noir in some of the best ways. It's so fast paced. The dialogue is so quick. The way the characters go back and forth. Brennan is, the way he speaks and the way he speaks to the other characters, he is a one-man army trying to investigate the disappearance of his ex-girlfriend, which that alone is kind of crazy. It's like, she's your ex. You guys broke up for a reason. But as the film goes on, you see that this high schooler, Brennan's love for her is so deep, so remaining, that he's just willing to risk life and limb to try to find out what happened to her. Early on in the film, she calls for his help. And she says, I need you. I'm in a fix. Help me. And then he's going to the ends of the earth to help her. One thing I noticed very quickly in this film that made me ask, I was like, is this Rian Johnson in his Tarantino era? There were so many shots of feet and of shoes.
I thought the same thing, actually,
throughout this film.
Yeah,
there was so much feet, so many shoes, and I was like, wait a minute, it's a Tarantino film. And then doing a little bit of digging on the film, I realized I was able to find out that Rian put so much. Rian, like I'm on a first name basis with him. Rian Johnson put so much emphasis on these feet because of his belief about shoes. At least for this film, he believed that the shoes of the character could tell you all you needed to know about them. And it's interesting when we see that because it's kind of how this film plays. You've got Brennan in these very functional type shoes. You've got some of the people that he meets, such as Laura, in these shoes that are very high heel, very fancy, high class style. And these shoes really tell you who these characters are very quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to punt to you and let you do a little bit, and then I'll come back in. I've got some of the dialogue lines that I wrote down, because whereas you found some of the dialogue in Piano Player quippy and funny, I just thought there was so much in the dialogue between these characters as it was going back and forth that was it was deeper than what they were just saying on the surface, and it was also, I found it perfect for a noir film. So many lines that perfectly encapsulated who these characters were, what the world was in, and what was at stake for what the characters, but specifically Brennan, was going into. So I'll get into that in a minute, but I'll let you just give me kind of an overview response to the beginning of the film and then throughout as the film continued on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you did a great job telling us why you appreciated it, at least from the jump, and that you felt like this film didn't take any time to grab you. And I appreciate that because it's definitely the opposite for me. It took time to really grab me and pull me in. I will say that one of the things about Brick that you will either love or find extremely annoying is the dialogue exchange. And the reason for this, for me, is that I found it to be at times extremely tacky. And it felt weird and funky in a way I did not jive with. It felt phony. It did not feel like, it felt like, and I even put this in my notes, it seems that every like kind of big time director wanted to take a stab at shooting the cool hipster movie. And Rian Johnson just isn't the cool hipster that I think he wants to be. And I appreciate him. And obviously I love his work. I love every single movie he's made. Maybe shy of this one. I still appreciate this one, but I wouldn't say that I love it. Well, and another Glass Onion, but that's for another discussion. But I will say that for me, when I was watching it, the way that Joseph Gordon-Levitt immediately like jumps when he's on the screen, the first thing you notice is that he's wearing like this jacket, and this jacket becomes a very prominent piece to his costuming, right? And that it's sort of like the trench coat, right, of the noir detective, just modern and from a high schooler's perspective. And I thought that when I was watching it, I appreciated his decisions in the costuming, but there was one really random element of the costuming that I didn't quite get. There's a scene at the very beginning during the Halloween party. This woman walks on the screen, and we don't know much about her, but what we do know is that she's wearing this like Japanese wear, this Japanese like kimono.
Yep.
Right. And we spend more time with her, obviously, as the film goes on. But I noticed that. And then later, Megan Good's character, who is friends with the disappeared ex-girlfriend, she's wearing like full-on Japanese makeup. And this happens later on, and I was like, I wonder if there's something he's trying to get at with the Japanese, Asian, Oriental appearance. And if there is, okay, but for what? Because I couldn't figure out what he was really trying to accomplish with that. But I just found that very fascinating to me. I was like, I don't understand the direction we're going. But I will say that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character came off as like, it felt, and then I realized more or less about what they were doing, but every actor felt like a caricature, and I understand that they're supposed to be, but it really took me out. And I was like, I feel like anybody could have been that role. Anybody could have been that role. Brain, I'll be completely honest, got on my last nerve. There was Brain. I'm glad that you did, but he got on my last nerve
throughout the whole thing. He was probably my favorite character.
Really? Okay, yeah.
He laughed with Brain.
I definitely was on the opposite page. I'm definitely not a fan of Brain because again, the way in which it felt like Rian Johnson had taken the opportunity to write some quippy dialogue down, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to build a film around quippy dialogue. And then he's going to do this and do that. And I do feel like that's where he came from. But to me, it didn't feel earned. It didn't feel like this is a guy, because when you watch his movies later on, his dialogue is strong, it's solid, but it's not like eccentric. It's not hipster. It's not trying to be something it's not. It just is solid, good, strong dialogue, right? In my opinion.
Push back on that a little bit.
Okay. Well, what do you mean?
You think of some of the dialogue in Knives Out. There's very
Okay.
much of that's modern, quippy, hipster, little socially aware, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
So I think Rian Johnson, at least in those two films for sure, has always kind of played with that. And he does it in a way that, for me, I find it really exciting and thrilling and not turn-offy at all.
Yeah.
Especially in Knives Out, which is one that could have very easily, but I was like, no, I love this. So I think he's always kind of had that quippy play of dialogue. But in some films, maybe it works, and in others, maybe it doesn't work for you. For me, it works in both films.
And I can appreciate that. I think that it's not a bad movie. I don't think Brick is a bad movie. I will never probably understand the 5-star ratings for Brick. I don't think it is this flawless masterpiece of a film. I think that he is a clever writer and he's showing his chops, and I appreciate that he was able to get this movie made because his parents actually funded it for him.
Mhm.
Like, I appreciate the idea that your family would give you their hard-earned cash to help you make movies, and then he's taken off with it ever since, right? And so
Right.
I appreciate that about him. I also appreciate that this movie isn't, like, on the surface politically motivated. It's not a movie about politics. It's not a movie about an agenda, which I will say that as you move into his later films, they definitely become more so about politics. They definitely are more prominent in the modern era of things. And so I appreciate like how he took from the noir films before, which weren't always motivated by politics. They kind of were, but he was like, I'm just going to make this about the politics of the corruption of the high school versus the corruption of the government. And so I appreciated like that take of making it very small scale. And the reason I appreciate the second half so much more is that I think that the story started to come into its own. And so one of the similarities we'll kind of talk about between the two films is how Brick and Shoot the Piano Player have those dual storylines, right?
Yeah.
They are definitely coming from they're starting here at the beginning and they're jumping back. In Shoot the Piano Player, you have Charlie's prior life, and then you have his life that he's currently living now. And in Brick, you have Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character at the beginning of the film. It starts like a typical noir would, kind of like Double Indemnity or one of those older, like more classic noir feels, where it's like we're starting sort of at the end, sort of at the middle, and we're going to build back to that point and then continue on past that point. And so I do appreciate the story structure in which Johnson has like developed here. And I will say, with the dialogue, I think I may have found my problem. It might not be necessarily Johnson's dialogue, but I do think that while he is trying to be funny in the noir film vibe, because it's like so super serious high school drama, which isn't really all that serious until later on in the film. But I think that it's the delivery of the lines that I think gets under my skin the most. I just feel like these people really don't deliver on the acting of being in a noir film. Because you watch it and you're like, in the old noirs, or maybe this is just because we weren't around in this time, we believe that they might talk like this. Where I don't believe any of these high schoolers talk like this. This isn't convincing to me, where I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? They definitely would go that back and forth, and they would say, certain terminologies like this. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt has a number of those, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But I think for me, the gimmick of the dialogue gets a little old at times. And there are times where it brings me back into it, and there are times where it definitely is like, I just can't get behind it. I can't support him long enough for this like gimmicky dialogue.
And see, that for me was part of what pulled me in, because I totally like this is a neo-noir film, right? So it's new, it's modern, but those noir sensibilities of some of those weird lines, and I'll go ahead and give you one that I wrote down that seems to be a pretty popular favorite. It's where Brennan, Levitt's character, is saying to the vice principal, he says, "I gave you Jared to see him eaten, not you fed." High schoolers in 2005 did not talk like that.
Yeah.
But if we're taking this movie at face value of a classical noir, that's absolutely something that an old noir detective would say to his supervisor.
Yeah, absolutely.
It played, I guess I just bought so quickly into this world from the moment the film started that all of those things that seem off to our modern sensibilities just fit so perfectly within this noir. I'll give you another one. You better be sure you want to know what you want to know.
I had that line as well.
And to me, that line almost sums up this whole film. You better be sure you want to know what you want to know. Because once you know, it's too late. And there is no turning back once you know the truth.
Yep.
There's another one, and I'll give one more, and then I'll let you keep on moving on.
No, you're fine. Continue.
But where Brennan says of Laura, he says, "Oh, you are dangerous." Again, not a line that we would expect in a 2005 high school, but for a noir 40s detective, which is who Levitt's Brennan is, saying that to the femme fatale type character, which we can get into later, totally buy that. So I think I sold out into this world so quickly from the moment it started that all of these things, all of these ways that he was pointing back to the classical noirs, they worked for me. And I bought it because I bought this world and I believed this world.
And I think that makes a difference, right? And I think that as someone who like has definitely probably watched more noirs, rewatches and watches for the first time, like this year has been really when I've been going more and more into noirs. I appreciated what they were doing at that time in place. Where with Brick, while there are things that I feel like are its own, right? The idea of taking it like instead of it being the corruption of the city or the corruption of the politicians or the corruption of the people who are in control of things, it's like high schoolers.
Right.
So, haha, that's funny. Like, all right.
Yeah,
but
the
then,
high school is the government.
Right.
The high school is the city and the leaders.
There's a hierarchy. There's a way of living within that high school agenda. And obviously Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Brennan's character, does not fit that mold. No. He's out on his own. He's the loner, right? He's the aloof, mysterious guy.
Yeah. And that was something else my wife said as she was watching the film. She was like, "Where are all the adults?" And I'm like, the kids are the adults. They are the adults in this world in the way that this noir is crafted. The only other adult we see two. We see Penn's mother, who's kind of the poor woman. She almost needs, I don't know. She's completely out of it. She has no idea what's going on in her home, or at least you hope she doesn't. And then there's the vice principal character, who to me is that role of that superior police chief. Whereas Gordon Levitt's the disgraced detective, that he's on thin ice. It's about this much and it's going to crack. So if he steps out of line even just that much, the police chief is going to have his head. Those are the only two adults we see. And then the rest of it, the kids, these teenagers are the adults in this world.
Absolutely. And I think that is an interesting take for Johnson to have and for him to like put into action for this film. I will say, while I don't think that the intent is bad, and I don't believe that the craftsmanship is bad, the cinematography is very interesting. I will say the editing at times, I think that this is what he maybe tried to get away with too. And I'm not saying it's not a smart creative decision as far as like when you first begin making movies, but maybe some poor editing choices that he made that felt clunky. He could sort of harken back to, oh well, that's paying homage. It's paying homage to the to the genres of old, and which I would just argue, no, that's just poor editing. Like, no, that was clunky and took me out of it and was weird and jarring, and I didn't appreciate it. Now, there are times what he does with the camera that I think is really, really like cool and fun. There's an editing. This is my favorite joke of the entire movie. It's when Brennan is, we'll just say he's being maybe held captive, and someone is watching over him, and he's sitting up against the wall, and the person who's holding him captive, the editing choice is it shows him like sitting in the chair like this, and then we cut to Brennan and he gets beat up, and then we cut back to the guy. He's in the exact same stance he was before. Like nothing has shifted. Like he's not.
His world hasn't changed at all.
Yeah, his posture, everything is exactly the same. And I laughed out loud at that. I thought that was a really funny touch, and like it made me feel like, okay, see, that's where I can tell he's being goofy. But there are other times where I was like, I can't tell if he's taking himself seriously or if he's really just trying to make a joke, or like what's happening here. Because obviously you have the moment with the vice principal where I'm like, okay, I understand, disgraced cop. Okay, the homage is so thick here. I can put it together.
Yep.
And I appreciated it. I didn't have a problem with it. But I think there's so many times that there's only so many times where you can do that before it starts to feel just like a derivative. And I do think for me, while some people are going to say it's more of an homage, I think at times it's a little bit more derivative. I'm like, I don't feel like you can just copy paste the tropes of the genre and then just put in a new storyline. To me, it's like you need to be a little bit more creative, which I believe he does in the second half of the movie. As things start to kind of crash down on Brennan's character, and you start to see the realistic, like actual high stakes of the movie, where the movie actually kicks into its like third gear. I'm like, okay, this is what I've been waiting for. This is the entertainment I was hopeful for Johnson to bring. Before, it just kind of felt like a gimmick and derivative to me, which I'm glad it didn't to you, and it doesn't really to most people. Most people don't see it in that light. But for me, I couldn't like get it out of my head. There were so many times where I was like, oh, it just felt so like corny, or it felt, and I'm like, and maybe it's just because I know Johnson to be a better with nuance in that.
Right.
Granted, Thromby's Trump, small loan of $1 million. There are times where he definitely just pulls from real life. But I do think there are times where he's definitely like in Looper, which I know you haven't got to see Looper yet, but that's also a great one to watch, with another one starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And I think definitely more where Rian Johnson cemented himself as like here to play, And so I appreciate the independent vibe, but I was like, it felt really, really quirky and eccentric and over the top, and in ways I just didn't appreciate. And so, but I will say I am definitely more favorable on the film. I would rewatch the film. I did find it funny, and I did find some of the lines to be really impactful. The "be sure you want to know what you want to know" line, especially. They have another line like that where Brennan says, "I don't know and I don't know," where you just have the same line said twice, but with the inflection and the tone, it's like, okay, he's establishing two different thoughts here. So I appreciated when Johnson would do things like that. And I also really, because when I was watching it, there's a scene, I know you'll remember the scene I'm talking about, but where he's in a foot chase, right? And he's running from this person, and he runs to the side, he takes off his shoes, and then he runs back at the guy, and he like slides, and he trips the guy in this like really dramatic, over the top fashion.
Yep.
For me, when I saw that, I appreciated it a lot, because the entire time I was like, man, those shoes are really loud. I'm like, what is going on here? Why are these shoes like clicking against the ground with such vibrato, and like it's like an echo, and it's loud, and it's like very, very prominent. And then he takes his shoes off, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. Well done. That was a nice little sound design trick you did there. I appreciated that. And so, and the slide was perfection. And so,
Yeah, I
so
love
over the
that.
top, so goofy, but just like it was funny. And I will say that I appreciated the violence in this film.
Hmm.
It's a very like high school-esque violence film, especially in the first half. The second half, we'll talk more about if it stays
Right.
that way or not. But yeah, excellent in the violence category. I do think that the violence in this movie was really well earned. I do think that it was really well choreographed. The cinematography on certain fight scenes was really well done,
Hmm.
and funny. And so, yeah, before we move on into like thematics, is there anything else you'd like to add about Rick before we continue forward?
Outside of what might be spoiler, I don't know if there is. I was so thrilled when this film was over, and I already can't wait to watch it again. And I think there's a part of me that's always kind of seen Johnson as a little bit of a goofy director. Like, even
Okay.
in his seriousness, he's goofy. Knives Out
Okay.
is a goofy movie.
It is.
You could argue, let's take, Star Wars The Last Jedi. There's a lot of goofiness in that
Mhm.
movie, which is why a lot of people can't stand it. I know that's one that you quite like, and I've grown to appreciate. But I've always seen that goofiness with Johnson as part of who he is as a director. He takes very serious issues and he treats them with a serious goofiness. And that to me makes him very entertaining. That's throughout Brick, all that goofiness. It worked for me, even with the seriousness of the noir.
Mm.
It felt like Johnson. It felt like his voice, even from a very first debut feature. So I really appreciate it. I can't wait to watch it again. This one could end up in a semi-regular noir rewatch, much to the dismay of my wife. But that's okay. We don't have to love everything.
Yeah. No, that, and I'm glad that you said that because I definitely felt like it was more of a director trying to find his voice versus a director who had his voice established. I think that stylistically, his voice was there. But I feel like there were a lot of times where I felt like he was like trying to find his footing. What kind of director is he going to be? Is he going to be more of that slapstick kind of Edgar Wright kind of like goofy director, or is he going to be the guy who like comes in and like is able to find that nuance pretty well? And I do think what I've realized is that it is more of the way these actors are acting
Yeah.
that takes me out of it. The way the actors act in his later movies are more well established. They're just better actors in general. I mean, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the same actor, just 7 years later,
Yeah.
does, in my opinion, a better job in Looper than he does in this. And now he's playing a
this
different
was his
character.
debut film too. This is
Yes,
one of the
exactly.
films that put Levitt on the map. So these are a bunch of nobody actors.
Yep.
And some of them
And
went on to be very big actors, such as Levitt.
And so no, that makes a lot of sense. So I think that it doesn't necessarily always detract from the quality of the film, but for me, it just kind of did. And so, but with all that being said, as we go and jump into thematics, this is a spoiler section.
Yep.
We will be talking about where the films go, how they end up.
So go check them out and then come back.
Yes, absolutely. Similarities, contrasts, all of the above. And then we'll be finishing up our episode by giving you guys each 5 different noir or neo-noir films that maybe you've seen, maybe you haven't, but some of our favorites or ones we just feel like we should mention so that you guys take your time and go and watch them. So, but now we will be jumping into the spoiler sections of Shoot the Piano Player and Brick. So with Shoot the Piano Player, the biggest spoiler we should talk about, I think for me, the biggest plot point of Charlie or Edouard's character is the fact that his prior wife dies.
Yep.
Right?
Not only does she die, but she dies by suicide.
She kills herself by jumping out of a window.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that makes this even more tragic is that our character, our lead, has this inner monologue right before he does, and he like tries to convince himself to stay. He tries to tell himself, "I need to be in the room. We're gonna get past this." Like depression that she's in. We're gonna get past this like struggle, and that's what I need to do.
And let's
And then he
even
walks
back
up.
up more to why she's in this depression and this struggle. Why? Because he mentions to, I believe it's his manager. Charlie mentions Eduardo at the time. He mentions to his manager that his marriage is over. He feels that his wife has been pulling away for quite some time. She hasn't said the words. He hasn't said the words, but he just knows it. He feels it in his gut.
Mm.
So his manager's like, no, come bring her to this party. Come bring her to this thing, give it, and I'll talk to her. And I'll see and I'll make it right. So he shows up to their hotel room, I believe. I believe it's a hotel room. He shows up. He tells her he's going to bring her to this party. And that's when she drops this bombshell that she had an affair with another character who we meet early on in this flashback when his wife was a waitress at this restaurant where Eduardo would come and they would have the little banter of she's my waitress and I'm a customer and we don't actually know each other. There's this other guy that we meet who I believe he's in the music industry to some degree or a musical performance.
I don't recall, but I think you're correct.
Is the way it leads on that he's somebody who has a stake, who can make Eduardo's dreams come true. And come to find out, Eduardo's wife had slept with this executive, this musical producer. She'd slept with him so that he could get a contract to play music. And that's why she's been pulling away from him. She says that her body it felt like her body and her soul almost had split. That her body was going with this man to sleep with him, but who she really was, the essence of who she was, had been left behind. But then after the act happened and after Eduardo got this contract, she realized that there wasn't a split. And that this act, having the affair and sleeping with this producer so that he could get this contract, it weighed on her, and it now turned her into these filthy rags that she felt like she couldn't be intimate with her husband. And that's why she'd been pulling away. So it's in that moment he's debating in his mind, I should just get on my knees. I should just hold her hands. I should tell her it's going to be okay, that we're going to get through this, that it's all right. I forgive her, all that kind of stuff. And then, like you said, he leaves. And then what do we get?
She takes that opportunity and it's very quick. You see that he walks out of the room, realizes he should be in there. He turns back around to go in there, and by that time, she had already jumped from the window and fallen to her death. Yeah. And it's interesting because, she makes that comment about being split from her body and soul, and immediately that follows into the inner monologue in which he has the thought of staying, and his body does the thing of leaving.
Right.
And it's just a nice touch from a director who you think been doing it for 20 years, and it's really his second film. And that is just such an intelligent decision to make at that point, because we've also already established that he has an inner monologue, right? We've already established that he does this voiceover through the film. And so to then take that, what we know, utilize it in this moment, and then use it for not only like a strong plot point, but then a strong thematic element as well that she was just arguing with is just it's just so intelligent. It's such a good decision. And to this point too, we've had a lot of laughs. We've been enjoying this movie. It's been funny. It's
been much
more
funny than serious.
Yeah, and you would think it's more or less going to be more like a Three Stooges, get the money, gangster kind of flick, and Charlie's just kind of this happy, like not even happy-go-lucky, but just like this sort of like by the seat of his pants, end up where we end up. And now you see like, oh no, this is a much more serious topic.
Charlie's got a past.
That
affects everything he does in his present. I mean, we come to understand even in the opening, he has that exchange with the bar owner where he says, I'm scared. And he comes to this realization of why he doesn't engage with Lana or
Lena. Yeah.
That's it. Where he doesn't engage with Lena immediately or easily because he realizes I'm scared when it comes to women. And we're like, oh, well, every guy's scared when it comes to women. That makes sense. But then when you see this flashback, you're like, oh, he's got this whole other fear because this man's probably carrying the guilt that he had some part to play in his wife's death. I mean, I can imagine he's probably carrying a lot of guilt and shame for if he'd stayed in the room instead of walking out. Maybe she would have still been alive. So when he says, I'm scared, that flashback sequence, that gives a whole nother layer to his fear. It's not just a man being afraid to approach a woman. It's he's done this before, and he feels like he really screwed up. And in some ways he did. In some ways that were his fault, and in others that weren't. But that,
like any relationship,
right? Like any normal relationship. But that guilt and that fear that he's carrying is flooded into his life, and we see how that's made him gone from this high concert pianist who was playing for big crowds to now he's playing in this tavern, and we begin to understand more about this man.
And it also talking about like you reevaluate what you've heard before, because even his brother had made the comment like you should be playing at packed out concert halls. Like, what are you doing here? And he says, I can't be in two places at once. And when he says that, you hear that and you're like, oh, well, duh, like literally, you can't be in two places at once.
Right.
But also mentally, he can't be in two places at once. I need to stay in the tavern where it's safe, where I'm appreciated, where there's no reminders of my past, nothing to take me back to a place I don't want to be in.
Right.
Which is ironic, because as the movie continues, he does fall for Lena, and Lena falls for him. And there is a true connection between these two characters. And you can see that he's willing to kind of let his guard down again. He's willing to try to fall in love again. And he knows he needs to get back to his brothers, and he's going to this hideout where his brothers are going to be. And him and Lena are driving in the car, and he tells her to stop. He says, I'm going to continue on my own, take the car back. And he has the inner monologue where he makes the comment of, he knows she wants to go with him, but he also knows she can't. And so then he leaves, and you think at that point, oh, that's the tragedy of it.
Yep.
And you're thinking, oh, that just sucks. Like, gosh dang it. Because he's afraid at this point. He's going with his brothers. He's going to hide out at this place because he had killed a member. I can't remember exactly who this person, the
bar owner.
Was it the bar owner? Yeah,
he owned the tavern.
He had killed the person who owned the tavern, and he claims by accident.
Right.
And so that he was just aiming with this knife to sort of like just, swipe him away, but instead he gets him in the back. Yeah. And it kills this tavern owner. And so he thinks that he needs to flee now because he's going to be a wanted man. But Lena also tells him, like, you just need to be honest. Just tell him what happened. And he's like, you're not going to believe that I, like, accidentally killed a man by stabbing him in the back.
Right.
Which you hear that, and you're like, yeah, they probably not. Well, after he leaves Lena comes back and finds him in this little house with his brothers, who are just complete imbeciles. Just, they are, like, and you see that these three brothers are here. And they sort of like find out that Charlie has killed the bar owner.
And they're thrilled about it.
And they're thrilled and they're shocked. They're like, not shocked because he's murdered someone, shocked because they didn't think he had it in him, is how they say it. Like, you didn't think you had it in you to murder anybody. And they're like proud of him. And it's like he's like brought back into the fold. Which then you see why he doesn't want to be friends with his brothers, because his brothers are idiots. So this idea of like death to them being celebrated when he had lost the love of his life due to that very unfortunate thing. He's you start to see like Charlie is like, he's a much more nuanced individual, and while he might be like kind of a sleaze at times, where he might be a little bit pretentious, but he might be a little bit, he's ultimately not a bad person. But the other thing too that is interesting about him killing the guy is we're just supposed to believe that he accidentally did it, that it wasn't an intentional act. But we don't know if it was an intentional act or not. We think because of the kind of behavior right before then, they kind of like look like they're going to take a break from fighting, and they like call a truce for a moment, and it feels like this kind of funny, like they're literally trying to hurt each other really, really badly, and they're just sitting next to each other like, call a truce, call a truce. And you're like, okay, this is kind of goofy. This is kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
But the knife comes into play, and now you're realizing, oh, this might be a little bit more serious than we thought. So after he kills this man, they leave, and he finds his brothers, and they know that the gangsters are coming after them. Right? That's why they're hiding out. They know they only have so much time before the gangsters actually find them. Well, the gangsters do find them, and Lena comes back and says, hey, they believe you. Like, you can come back, you don't have to run. Like, you can come home. You're not going to have to be. You're not going to be put in jail for killing somebody. Like, they believe it was self-defense. Like, they believe it was an accident. However, at the same time, as she's running there, which is also a really awesome like camera moment, the way it like closes in on her face and her body, and the way she's running kind of looks like a warp. Very interesting. The gangsters show up, and they're firing away, and like you said, the broadside of a barn. They rarely do hit the broadside of a barn. This like little shack that the brothers are in, and the brothers are firing back, but they see Lena running away, and they shoot and kill Lena, and she falls down this slope, right?
And she rolls and rolls and rolls
in
the snow,
in the
snowy mountain area where they are.
Yeah. And Charlie,
they just shoot her because she's there almost. I mean, they know who she is. They've met her earlier in the film, and they've captured her and all that kind of stuff. They know that she's connected to Charlie. But yeah, they shoot her. She's the one thing they can hit.
And Charlie, who you know of a little bit before, but he has a son, and that's who he was going.
No, that's their youngest brother.
Oh, their youngest brother. Thank you.
Their youngest brother.
So, but he runs out with them, with Charlie, to this woman who's fallen, and Charlie picks up Lena, and it's certain Lena's dead. And this woman he allowed himself to fall for again has died. And
again,
the pain of knowing that he could have had a future with her is now being taken away. Is just tragic. And it ends with that final shot of his blank expression while he plays the piano back in the tavern, because he's back where he started. He's right back in the tavern playing the piano music quietly for the people, unhappy. And it really is a bleak, like sad little ending. Yeah. One of the similarities I wanted to draw attention to is the fact that there's two women in both of these movies, and both of them die in both different ways. Right?
Right.
Now, in Brick, obviously, the ex-girlfriend, when he finds the ex-girlfriend, we find that she's been killed.
Yeah,
right?
Emily is her name.
Emily has been murdered, and we don't know who did it at first. We end up figuring out who.
Right. That's what the whole movie is building to, is that Brennan is the one who finds Emily. He follows a clue to find where Emily was going to meet this person who wanted to meet her after she said she'd be okay. He finds this clue. He gets it out of her pocket, I believe, when they're embracing. He slides it out of her pocket, which is brilliantly clever. And then he finally figures out what this clue means, and he goes, and he's too late. We see Emily. She's there in the sewer, face down. Her face in that puddle of stream. And then that's where we get that iconic picture of Brick, where it's that hand with the bracelets. Just sitting there in the water, which I'd never known that was water that was in. I never put any of that together until I saw it on the screen. I was like, oh, that's where that image comes from. But yeah, Brennan shows up, and this his ex-girlfriend, this woman Emily, who he loved, he finds her dead. He's too late. And then that's where the rest of the film goes, is he's trying to figure out who killed her. And he's trying to get justice for her. The rest of the town thinks she's just missing. They don't know she's dead yet. They know she's been gone for several days. Because he takes her body and he hides it so that he can begin to investigate what happened to her, who killed her. So yeah, those are the first two women. And then I'm assuming the second two women you're going with are Alina and Laura.
Yeah, so
in the second similarity.
Well, the second similarity, yes. So Emily is the first woman that this, and you see that the breakup isn't necessarily something Brennan was happy about, because obviously he still cares about Emily a great deal. And you see that this is something that he didn't want to be happening, but it did.
And it's not even really a breakup in the traditional sense. It's more this parting of ways.
Yes.
He doesn't want her to be around this crowd that she's fallen into, and she doesn't want him controlling her or telling her what to do or thinking he knows better. So they kind of just part.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's really sad, because you see that it's not that they don't have a mutual love for each other. It's just that they both want very different things for themselves and for each other. But yeah, the second woman that dies, figuratively, is Laura. And Laura becomes this sort of like confidant, in a way, of Brennan's.
A little more than that. They spend the night together.
Yes, of course, but they begin as just someone she can like he can talk to, and she stands up for him and is like on his side clearly, or so she said.
Despite the fact that he doesn't trust her, to which he shouldn't trust her.
He shouldn't, and that is made very. It's made very clear at the very end, right?
Yeah.
And you see that with Emily having passed on, Laura has a lot of dirt on Emily, including the fact that when you find out in the film that Emily was pregnant, you also find out that it's a potentially anybody's game. Megan Good, I believe, is the character who says the field was crowded at that point, if you know what she's saying.
Right.
How she puts it, right? And so you don't know whose kid this whose kid this was. And so you have that like added element of darkness to this movie, where now it's like, oh gee, she's not only killed, like she was murdered with a baby, pregnant. Right? She was pregnant this time, which is just horribly sad. And you see that it could be realistically, the way the film paints it, is between three people, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Brennan being one of them, but we don't know that for sure.
No.
And when you find out, it's actually, there's a very interesting moment. Penn is out of the room, right? And Brennan and is it Tugger?
Tug.
Tug, yeah.
Yeah, Tugger. Tugger, Tug. Both.
Yeah, they're having a conversation, and Tug makes it seem as though he has no idea who this really was. He doesn't have any connection to her.
Right.
And come to find out, actually, not only does he have a connection to her, it's also possible that he's the father of the child. And as you go on to learn, he's the murderer as well, which is just a really just unfortunate trifecta for that guy. And the other potential father, Dode, who is a sort of like burnt out druggie, the type of person Brennan didn't want Emily hanging around.
Yep.
They all arrive at the scene of the crime, and Dode is convinced that Brennan is the one who killed Emily. So he's trying to convince him of this, and then Dode goes a little bit too far, and eventually this leads Tug to shooting Dode in the head. And it is by far the coolest moment of the movie. That's when the movie was like, okay. That's when I sat there and was like, okay, now we are cooking with oil. That scene, the framing, the shot was amazing. Super cool. One of those like really harsh moments played out with perfect style.
Yeah, well, that's really where the film switches too. It goes from kind of the more lighthearted, comical's not the right word.
No, but like appeal to the noir film.
Right. It goes from this appeal, this lighthearted softness playing the detective, to now things are serious. Now we've crossed into the dark side of the noir. It's really gotten bad. And it doesn't let up until the end of the film.
It doesn't. And Laura, this other woman that Brennan eventually at least trusts enough to go to bed with, he realizes the next morning when or I guess I don't even know if it's the next morning. I don't typically know the timing of it because of where
Couple
they're at.
days, maybe. They wake up and then the deal goes down, and then it's the day after that.
Yeah.
So maybe it is the next day, but it's very quick succession.
But she goes to take a cigarette. She's smoking a cigarette, and she puts it in this ashtray. And you notice that there's a specific arrow on the cigarette, marking the cigarette. And the last time he had seen that was after he got off the payphone, and he had saw this car speeding down the way, which also the payphone's a nice noir touch. But you see the car speeding down the way, the car stops, and they throw out the cigarette, and it's the same cigarette that she's now placed in the ashtray, which has drawn him back to this realization of the person that Emily had seen was Laura from where she was. And we know that she was there because she said to him, "It's nice to see you."
Yeah.
Which drew his attention to try and find her, but he couldn't find her. But he knows that she could see who's in the car. And he knows now that it was Laura, and that Laura has been a part of this. Now that, not that Laura was a murderer, he knows that
she
much.
Was the puppet master.
But she's the reason everything got to where it was.
Yeah.
And later,
we should address too at this point what started this film, why it's called Brick. It's this brick of cocaine that has been sliced and then put together with bag coke. And that's why Brennan thinks Laura was killed, because she had something to do with this bag coke.
Emily.
They think she stole a brick. Emily, right. Why Emily was killed.
No worries. Yeah.
Penn thinks that she stole this brick, so he thinks Penn thought she stole the brick and Penn killed her. When really Laura, even from the beginning, has been slicing the bricks and putting them back together and making them disappear. And she's been the puppet master of this whole ordeal. From Emily being accused, to the word about her being pregnant, to Tug being there to kill Emily. Laura's been the mastermind behind all of it. And it's really, really unfortunate.
It really is.
Oh, no, you knew it was going to be her, but you wished and you hoped that maybe she is as good as she says in that last moment. I'm like, oh, no, you're just as bad as you thought you were.
And she manipulates Brennan based on his love for Emily. Because she makes that comment by the lockers when she's like, "I saw the way you loved Emily, and I just hope that maybe you could take care of me in a similar way. No one else takes care of me this way." And it's a very manipulative moment, because you truly believe what she's saying. And he kind of does too. He doesn't trust her, but he kind of believes at least what she's saying. And so
he's starting to trust her more. He wants her to be who she says she is, and she's not. And it's just as heartbreaking as when Lena dies at the end to Shoot the Piano Player.
Yes, yeah. And you see that way of now, because he's realized, I can't be with you. And so now, even though she's not physically died, he's realized
relationship's dead.
It's dead. And he has about as much hope with her as he does with Emily at this point. And so when it ends, he's speaking to Emily or Laura, and Laura thinks that she's essentially still going to get away with it, right?
Yep.
But he had made the cops aware to check her locker where they would find a brick. Okay.
Yep.
And you realize now, okay, he got her in the end, and she kind of walks away in that dramatic noir fashion, and the credits roll. And so you see the two similarities one of the similarities is the two women in uh, in Brick and in Shoot the Piano Player, and the fact that they both die, but they both die, and all four of them die in a very different way. One doesn't literally die. One is killed due to the people she was around. One kills herself, and one is murdered just out of happenstance for being there, right? And it's more tragic because she was coming back hopeful, right? And so,
well, it's more tragic because they were all loves of the hero.
Yeah. And so you see this movie, you see these two movies kind of coincide with those noir themes, and where Brick is sort of just essentially like this modern day noir. You can call it a neo-noir, but it's really more just a modern day noir. With some neo-noir tendencies. And you have Shoot the Piano Player, which doesn't really feel like a noir, but it has the tenets of a noir kind of at its disposal.
Reimagined. Right.
Reimagined, yes. So you have these two films. We wanted to talk about them because, too, again, like you had mentioned at the very beginning of the podcast, noir comes from the French. It comes from the meaning black or dark, and these are black or dark films.
Yeah.
And so I appreciated how one of the main differences was their style and how they approached the noir genre. Yeah. And so while I do believe that there could definitely be more more similarities, like sort of taken out of them, I think that it would kind of be one of those things where it would be kind of like an endless pit, just due to the fact that if you compare a noir film to another noir film, of course you're going to find similarities.
They're all going to have those key tenets of a noir,
like in abundance, right? About. Yeah, exactly. And so, but I will say this: unless you have anything else to add to our conversation about Brick and Shoot the Piano Player, these are two, in my opinion, watchable films. One, Shoot the Piano Player, in my opinion, I find more fascinating, more interesting, better put together. But Brick as a debut feature is just as remarkable. They're very early on films from both of these directors, and it feels, you don't feel it so much. You may feel it a little bit in Brick, but it's not really as if there were other directors who had made that film as their third or fourth, it could be their best film in their filmography. And so, I appreciate your love for Brick as much as I appreciate like Shoot the Piano Player, and I'm glad that you appreciated it more than I did, and I appreciated one more than you did, because we could kind of like draw on each other's experiences and see like, oh, okay, this is why you like this film so much more. And so, and it just, I feel like it's just one is more up our alleys than the other.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's how it's going to be for most people that watch these movies or talk about these movies. If people both watch, Shoot the Piano Player and Brick and like them the same, great. But I do feel like there's going to be people who really don't like Shoot the Piano Player, and there's going to be people who really don't like Brick. And it is just, that's the beauty of talking about movies. And so if you don't have anything,
that's why we do it, and that's why we do it together. You're not just getting my opinion or your opinion, you're getting two opinions that are often similar, but sometimes, these are two podcast episodes where we've kind of had two very different opinions on the films we reviewed, which is awesome. It makes for great discussion for us, and then hopefully for those that get to enjoy it and listen in. Hopefully we do some good justice to these films as we talk about them and represent them and recommend them.
Yeah, we hope that you take the time to watch them. And so before we close out, very briefly, we're going to discuss a noir film, 5 of them from each person, of what movies we believe you should watch either in the remainder of this month or just at any time. Because that's really the beauty about a noir, is that we say Noir-November or Noirvember, but you can watch them at any time of the year, right? And so, Nolan, why don't you go ahead and start with your 5th pick briefly, and then I'll do my 5th pick, and we'll go in that way.
Yep, let's do it. And I considered trying to rank these, and I am going to I'll tell you maybe the one that's at the top, because for me there's a clear top out of these films. But also looking at them, these are just not, they're not in any particular order. So I'm going to start with actually the newest film that came out of these, and then I'm going to work my way back to the oldest film because coincidentally, the oldest film is the one that I just think is the pinnacle. So the first film I'm going to give you is from the 90s, and it's a neo-noir. It borrows the elements of a noir film, and it shapes them and kind of makes it its own, which also, this is from French director Luc Besson, and it is Leon the Professional.
Yep.
And one thing this is one of those movies that gets a lot of both hate and love in the movie circle, but largely because of the relationship that is developed between Leon, who is this older, aged hitman, and Natalie Portman's character, who we see here on the front, which I can't remember her name now. That's driving me crazy. Will you look that up for me and tell me?
I can do that.
Check that out for me. But it's about Natalie Portman's character. She's this child. This is Natalie Portman's first role, her first big role. She's a child. Do what?
Matilda.
That's it. Should have remembered that. So yeah, Portman's Matilda. And Matilda comes from this family that is rough and tumbled, and they're just a mess. They're mixed up in some bad things with some bad people, and it hits the fan, and Matilda finds herself on her own and needing someone to care for her. And that's where Leon, her neighbor, who is a secret hitman, steps into the picture. And the film's really about the relationship between Leon and Matilda wanting to not only be with Leon and be protected by him, but also to be trained to be a hitman like he is. So it borrows, obviously, those elements of the seediness and the corruption of the noir, the drugs and the murder and the violence of the noir. It's got that sympathetic kind of anti-hero, not really good guy as our hero as Leon, because he's a hitman. He's a loner. He keeps to himself. The only person that he cares for, the only thing he cares for is his plant before Matilda comes into his life. So it borrows those noir elements and puts them into this kind of action film, because it's an action film, but it borrows these elements of a noir and has this very neo-noir feel. So that's going to be my first top 5 noir pick, is going to be Leon the Professional from Luc Besson.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's one I still have not been able to catch up with, but I know it's one of the higher rated movies on IMDb, which I've always found fascinating. So it's definitely, I know, worth a watch. Also, Natalie Portman. Would love to watch and see her at a young age. I feel like that would be a little surreal, right? Kind of like watching Drew Barrymore in E.T. Right? That feeling of watching a well-established later actor to being when they were young. So my first one that I'm going to mention is going to be Tension, and this is a movie from, I want to say it's the 50s, so it's right in that noir era, and it's a story about I guess you would call him a pharmacist. It's very interesting because this pharmacist is there, and it also has like a coffee shop in the same store, and they're 24/7. They stay open 24/7, and you meet this pharmacist, Mr. Quimby. You meet his wife, Mrs. Quimby, who is just despicable, and you feel it from the second she's on frame. She's a femme fatale that is very clearly a femme fatale. Some of the other ones would try to make it the twist of the movie, right? They would try to make the twist of the femme fatale, like, oh, okay, oh, interesting. But this one, no. You know from the beginning she cannot be trusted. And without going into too many spoilers, because I do feel like this is a movie that is definitely worth your time, you have Mr. Quimby finds out that his wife has been cheating on him. And he knows that he's being seen as a pushover by his wife. And so he decides that he's going to kill the man who is sleeping with his wife. That's all I can give you. And you see what happens and where it leads, and the twists and turns that go from there, and the shock halfway through the movie where you get your first twist.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a pinnacle noir because it's got the black and white, and it's got the saxophone needle drops and the smoky atmosphere and the coffee late at night, the murder or intent to murder, we'll say. But it is, and the femme fatale, but this time she's very much noticeable from the very beginning. So Tension is a great film to watch from that time period, and one that I just kind of happened upon. I'd actually never heard of it, but I saw it on HBO Max, and I thought, you know what, I'm very interested in this. So, so that's Tension.
All right, sweet. Well, I'm gonna take the most lighthearted approach that you probably can in a noir. This film's from the 80s, and it's another kind of neo-noir where it takes the noir influence and it plays with it. But I also think to call this film anything besides a noir is just wrong. And that is Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this film has, again, all of the elements of a noir. It's a murder mystery where Roger Rabbit is framed for a murder of a Hollywood studio executive, and everybody's out to try to find him. But there's this old washed up detective who, and this is a world where tunes and real people kind of blend.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of blend. They do blend. Tunes interact with real people. We've got Roger Rabbit and our detective there on the front. This is a world where they interact and they live together. And this detective, he and his brother had this agency where they were known for defending tunes. That's who they worked for. That's who they private-eyed for. It's who they defended in the legal system. So Roger Rabbit comes to him hoping that he'll help him. He'll help prove that Roger didn't do this. And he is, again, the perfect noir leading man. He is washed up. He is depressed. He is an alcoholic. He is a smoker. He is about the seediest guy you can have. But Roger comes to him. He pleads for his help. And now all of a sudden, this private eye who has sworn off helping tunes, who has sworn off the private eye gig altogether, is pulled back into the world of the tunes. And complete and utter madness ensues. You've got Mickey Mouse, you've got Bugs Bunny, you've got Dumbo, Daffy Duck, you've got Donald Duck. There's a dueling set of pianos about midway through this film where Donald and Daffy duel in a jazz club playing pianos. And it's about as comical and hysterical as you can think it would be. And then, of course, right there on the cover, you've got Jessica Rabbit. And if there ever was a femme fatale, it's Jessica Rabbit. She is the epitome of what you would think of as a femme fatale. And the detective knows it. And he's very untrusting of her. He's like, did she set him up? What's going on? And it's as they go through this mystery to find out who really killed this Hollywood executive. And how are they going to free Roger? So this is a hilarious film. I love this film more and more every time I watch it. It's a children's film, but also not a children's film in the way that the best children's films are. You're not going to get something like Roger Rabbit today. You're not going to get something as inventive where real people were interacting with animation. And don't mistake, this is not a happy, light story. I mean, it is a happy, light story, but it's pretty dark. There's some dark places that Roger Rabbit goes. So if you haven't seen this film from the 80s, you've got to check this out. It was revolutionary for its time. It's still revolutionary today. There's not a film like it. If you need something to give you some breathing room in your noir watching, it's a great one that you can't miss it. So that's Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Perfect. Thank you for explaining. Yeah, I've seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but only when I was a kid. And so it's been a long time since I've seen that movie. So I do need to
so much more as an adult. I saw it as an adult the first time I've seen it. That's the only way I ever knew it. And there's so much more that you pick up on. The
I'm sure.
humor, the comedy, the absurdity of everything going on. Yeah, if you only saw it as a kid, go back and watch it as an adult. It
Mhm.
will make that experience just that much better.
Absolutely.
If you are under 10, you're probably a little young for this film.
Yeah,
But
probably so.
also, if you're under 10, a lot of the humor might go over your head, so maybe you're okay. We'll leave that up to parental discretion.
Yeah, probably the right move. But I also wanted to clarify on tension. It's not the 50s. It was on the verge of the 50s, 1949. So I just wanted to clear that up for anybody who's like, he said the 50s and it's the 40s. How The Shining is like a 70s film, but it's 1980. We understand. Same thing. So the next one I'm actually kind of wearing an Easter egg for. I'm wearing this as an Easter egg for 2 movies. But the next neo-noir film I'm going to mention is Blue Velvet by David Lynch. And obviously, as you can see from my robe, I'll let you decide if that's velvet or not. I'm not going to share with the crowd. But yeah, Blue Velvet is a movie about the seedy underbelly of suburbia. Things that are going on that you're not privy to. There's actually a line, what I think is a line that describes the movie, is I'm seeing something that was once hidden, right? And, a lot of people look at the opening shot and, it's this camera that goes through the grass and it's very peaceful until it sees all of these bugs. And the bugs are just infesting this area. And some people think, oh, that's a little on the nose. It's a little just too in my face for me to like really appreciate him as an artist. And then you watch the rest of the film and it's actually very funny. Kind of like if you've ever watched Twin Peaks from David Lynch, this is definitely what I would say, like, you should watch this before you watch Twin Peaks, as you'll then see his sensibilities for that kind of like small town murder scene and the weirdness that David Lynch is. The thing about this David Lynch film is that while it at times can feel like a dream, it's very much a cohesive plot line. And it's also different from the storylines of a typical noir because the ending isn't unhappy. The ending is mostly happy. And that's like a fulfilling thing to watch, especially when you watch a David Lynch film. For it to end happy, that's a really like, you see that he's a much more wholesome individual than maybe he has been accused of in the past. And so it's a very entertaining ride. And the twists and turns are very frequent, and you get to see what it's like for like a high schooler, sort of like in Brick. I thought this would also be a good pairing to watch with Brick, as you see the high schooler. But the only difference is that he's not investigating through the underworld of high school. He's investigating through the underworld of the crime in his city. And it all begins with him finding a severed ear in a field. And you see along, what does that lead to?
Do it.
And it is weird. It's fascinating. It's incredible. It's one of the best neo-noirs you can watch in this day and age. And it's filmed from the 80s. I want to say it's 86. Yep, 1986. And it is just, it's well worth your time, well worth the watch. And it actually takes a lot from David Lynch's childhood in some of the images that you see. And they're unfortunate images to have viewed as a child. We'll just say that. So, yeah, my next pick is Blue Velvet by David Lynch.
So the next one I'm going to recommend to you. I'm stepping a little bit out of the timeline order, but that's okay because the last two I want to say for the last two. But this is from 1945, so right in the middle of the noir phase, but this one's actually in Technicolor, which was very different for noir films of the 40s and 50s. And this is Leave Her to Heaven. So this was a film that I knew absolutely nothing about until I got it. It's not a film that's very easy to find if you try to find it through either streamings or libraries or that kind of thing, because it's one that's largely out of print. unless you get it through the Criterion Collection. So it was one I wanted to see. It's one I'd heard a lot about when it comes to noir. There's a lot of people that talk about this as being one of the finest noirs and one of the most underseen or maybe underappreciated. It's not as popular as the next two titles I'm going to get to, or even some of the titles that Brady has mentioned and will mention here coming up. But this is one of those films that if you've ever heard somebody say, my only weakness is I care too much, and you've laughed at that and got, that's not even, what is this nonsense you're talking about? Caring too much is a weakness. First off, nobody cares too much. Second off, that's not a weakness. Watch Leave Her to Heaven. And then you might change your tune, because this is one of those films that it really does prove a weakness to care too much. And you've got, let me look, Perfect Woman, Ellen. Ellen is who we have pictured here on the front cover. She might be one of the most fatal femme fatales of any noir. And that is all I'm going to say about the film, because I don't want to spoil it. If you're looking for something with romance in your noir film that's more romantic than the kind of seedy lust, passion romance, but it's more of something that's trying to be a wholesome romance, this is also a great one for that. It's a very wholesomely, but also twistedly romantic noir. It's beautiful. The color, the Technicolor is beautiful. If you haven't seen this film, find a way to watch it. If the only way you can watch it is to buy it, it's worth the recommendation. Buy it in November. It's $20. It's half off. Check out Leave Her to Heaven.
Perfect.
I just sounded like a infomercial for Barnes & Noble or Criterion, but we'll just move on past that.
That's all right. That's okay. It happens. And so the next film I'm talking about is the other clear homage to my choice of outfit tonight, and that is The Big Lebowski. That is the dude.
You're missing the sunglasses, man.
I know. I don't have the sunglasses that are as cool as his, but he doesn't wear them for the most part during the movie. So if he had worn more in the movie, I probably would buy it for more. But The Big Lebowski is a neo-noir that takes the convoluted plot of a noir film and just runs with it, where things don't make sense. You have mentions of nihilists. You have people who think that things are connected when they really have nothing to do with each other, which is what makes this film as funny as it is. You get the endless quotables of, yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man. And you get Donnie is, I am the walrus. You get this isn't Nom, this is bowling, there are rules. So you have endless quotables from this movie, and it is my second favorite Coen brother movie. At times I wonder if it's actually my first favorite, because the more I rewatch this one, the more joy I get from this movie, because it is so funny. You have the person who, when you watch a noir film, they're a suave detective who has this like keen ability to figure things out. And the dude is an idiot in the supermarket in his underwear and robe, buying milk so he can make a White Russian. His favorite drink, the classy White Russian, vodka and Kahlua and milk. So you see this guy who's not a charmer. He's not a guy. He's not even the same Lebowski they're looking for, which makes it even funnier. Right? And you see all these things that just, you want them to connect, and they don't. They have nothing to do with each other at all. And that's what makes it so funny. And it also has some tragedy to it, but then they turn that tragedy into one of the funniest jokes of the entire movie. And so I won't spoil it. If you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We'll just say a Folgers can. And that will, if you've seen it, you'll know what that means. But it is just a very, very good, and it's not a parody, but it's a very good satire on the noir films and the corruption of the people around you, and just being an everyman who is just trying to, wondering where his rug went. because it really pulled the room together. And it's just unfortunate that it's gone. So, yeah, The Big Lebowski. I don't know if you've seen that one yet, but if you
I
haven't,
have not caught up with that one yet, actually. I definitely need to, because
you
I
need
hear
to.
nothing but great things about that film from Coen Brothers fans and non just average film fans alike. So
Yeah.
it's definitely one I need to check up with. Maybe my wife will like that one. Maybe that'll be the first Coen Brothers film she'll actually enjoy. Yeah, you're shaking your head and you're making me think maybe not.
No, I really don't think she will, just because of what you've told me so far. But that's
It's
okay.
fair enough. Yeah,
It
now,
is the
you
Coen
mentioned
Brothers.
something that I think the people need to know. Are you like the dude, just in your robe and underwear? Don't stand up and show us. We just need to know.
That's for you guys to discern how
Fair enough. You
highly
know
of
what?
a level.
I would not expect any more of a response from a gentleman such as yourself.
The dude
All
abides.
right. Well, now with my last two noir recommendations, I'm getting into very familiar territory. If you've spent a lot of time around noir, you know these films. You've seen these films. Chances are you love these films. If you don't love these films, it's okay because you've seen these films. But we are going to go with two films by Billy Wilder, which may tell you what these films are. The first one I'm going to give you is Sunset Boulevard. This is maybe one of the greatest movies, if not the greatest movie, about Hollywood. This is about a washed up, down on his luck, dodging the repo man Hollywood screenwriter who used to be somebody. And now he's not. Joe Gillis was the man when it came to writing. He had something to say. He said it well. People loved his films. And now he's behind on even paying for his car running from the repo man because he just can't write the story that'll sell. And through really accident and circumstance, he ends up at the house of Norma Desmond, who used to be, she was the it girl when it came to, I'm trying to get this glare off here. She was a star of the silent film talkie era. She was the one that everybody adored, that everyone loved. And now, much like Gillis, she's washed up. She's past her prime. Talkies have come into play. The silent era is dead. But she refuses to let go of that star that she once was, and she's desperately trying to cling on to it. So then Gillis and Norma, they form this relationship, this writer-star relationship, and things just get deeper and darker and seedier until it ends just as a classic noir would end. And it's one of the finest noir films ever made. If you haven't seen it, find it. If you have seen it, maybe revisit it. I got to rewatch it last night at the time of this recording, and it was great. It was still just as great as it ever was. This is a film that is one of the greats of noir, and it's one of the greats for a reason. So I submit to you Billy Wilder's Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah, excellent pick. I remember watching that for the first time. I did it as a matinee, like a Saturday morning matinee. I think I started the film at like maybe 8:30. And I got to tell you, that was maybe the best way to watch that film for me. I had a cup of coffee in my hand, and I was watching a really good Billy Wilder movie, and it is a really good Billy Wilder. I can see how that can be some people's favorite movie of all time. And as one of the most famous quotes of all time, right? Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up, is an iconic line that even if you've never seen the movie, you've probably heard that line.
Yeah.
So with the noir films, I'm actually really excited to present my final two as well. They both are like in wildly different subsects of noir though, so that's interesting. But I wanted to do a few, like you have the traditional femme fatale noir, and then I wanted to do like the comedic noir, and then I wanted to do the like conspiracy theory noir, and now I'm going to do the horror noir, and that is from one of my favorite movies of all time. And I know you've heard me talk about this, Nolan, but that movie is going to be Cure. When I was looking up, trying to decide, is this movie a noir? I looked it up, and I was like, please, 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 please be a noir. Because I was like, it's about a detective, and he definitely has ulterior motives or maybe like moral ambiguity to him. And there definitely is that element of darkness and modern day issues with murder. There's a serial killer on the loose in a very unique capacity. And if you've never seen this movie, it is a movie that when you're done watching it, you're like, that was good. That was good. I don't see how anybody puts that in their top 5 of all time. That was a good movie. It was nice. Well done. And you're laying in bed, and a frame shows back up in your mind. Or you see the letter X written on the wall. Or you see a man down on his knees, screaming, pulling his face down because of what he's witnessing is so terrifying. And it is truly one of the films that gets under your skin in a way that I cannot explain to you about any other film. It is the only film that I've ever watched that, just due to how the camera is placed in the room, fills me with a sense of dread. Because you don't know if he's trying to show you anything else. Because it feels weird. The framing is off. The framing is not like a typical movie. It feels very intense. It feels very dark. It feels very just evil. And as the movie continues on, it's slow paced. So be in. It's only 2 hours, but be in for it because you need to be ready because it will not move at lightning speed. Because it is just methodical in its approach. It sort of dulls you into this feeling of safety. And then it takes the rug out from underneath you. And then you realize, has what I've been seeing actually everything I've been seeing? Or have I been tricked, quite like the main character in this movie may or may not experience a time or two while trying to figure out what's going on. So, Neo-Noir, 1997 by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. Cure.
Right. Yeah, that is definitely one you've mentioned to me several times and one that I need to catch up with. Maybe I just need to go and get it.
Yeah, you do need to go and get it. I would say it's a well worth the own.
Yeah. So my last noir pick is not going to be a surprise to anyone. And I'm glad I got to catch this one because, Brady, you recently, you caught up with it. But you didn't seem to have the head over heels reaction to this film that maybe a lot of people do or whatever. You respected it. You enjoyed it. But it wasn't one. It wasn't one that you were like, I gotta have it and I gotta have it now. Whereas this was a film that I was like, I gotta have it. As soon as I could get it, I had to have it. It's another Billy Wilder film. It is perhaps the noir of all noir films. And obviously, it's Double Indemnity. Has there ever been a better femme fatale than Barbara Stanwyck in this film? I'll wait.
I don't think so.
This is just everything a noir film is. It's not the first. It wasn't the last. It won't be the last. But this is the one that, to me, it writes the book on what a noir is. You've got the femme fatale. You've got the contorted hero. You've got the voiceover, the man telling his story. So we have all the facts. You've got the alternating timelines where we go back and forth. You've got the shadows, you've got the darkness, you've got the smoke of the cigarette against the dim light. This might be a masterpiece, and I need to go ahead and tell it that it is. But yeah, I don't have to speak any more about this film. Because if you know it, you know. If you don't know it, it's got to be at the top of your list for November. It's got to be
Mm.
the next noir that you go and check out.
Mm.
Because to me, this is the standard. This is the one that wrote the book on at least what an American noir, classic noir, is to be.
Mm.
So my final pick, my top noir, my favorite noir of all time, Double Indemnity.
And I do want to clarify. No, I'm not head over heels for it, but I do find myself thinking about it a lot. It hasn't left my mind since I've watched it.
Yeah, no, I know you do.
And it's so entertaining. It is it's so quick. It's over so quick. You're like, gosh, dang it. And I will say it is an amazing love story, but not in the traditional sense.
No.
The love story is a brother to brother, and it is heart-wrenching, but it is tremendously well done. And I might like it more than I initially thought, to be quite honest.
I hope so.
I think when I got done, maybe it was just the expectation was so high that it maybe underwhelmed me. But now I'm realizing that it could be better than I initially thought. But Double Indemnity is a fantastic noir. And I'm also going to end with a noir from the noir era. And this final movie is one I just recently rewatched. And it was actually in anticipation for this conversation. And I'd seen it a couple years ago, right around the time the remake was coming out. And this is the original Nightmare Alley. And this is one that I did a blind buy of way back when, right before the Guillermo del Toro remake came out with Bradley Cooper, Toni Collette, Rooney Mara, Ron Perlman, all of them. And I really, really liked it when I first saw it. And I could see people kind of giving it an average, across the board. This is an alright film. That was how most people saw it. For me, I was like, I don't think so. I think this is a better movie than that. And when I rewatched it, I realized that it actually is a masterpiece. And the reason I think that is because, one, the camera work in this movie is very, very intentional. One, I did not notice the first time I watched it. But there is this constant allusion to an evil force that is behind the scenes. And you see our lead character, Stanton the Great, and he Stan the Man also, but Stanton the Great, he's just this, he's not even a headliner at the circus. Okay, he's not even a headliner at the carnivals. He's just kind of shows up and he introduces the headliner, the act, and then he steps off the stage and he supports it. He's really excited about it, but he's hungry. He wants more. And you see the limits in which he's willing to go to in order to continually achieve this status of greatness until it may or may not take him to a place he doesn't want to be. He has a line that I think is so telling of his character. Later, they're speaking about God, and he says, "Oh, I know God. I know the Bible. I know the 10 Commandments backwards." And I thought, that's very telling of who he is. He knows the 10 Commandments, but they're twisted. They're backwards. And I thought, what a fantastic line. And the way the camera is just this evil force that continues to push him, continues to close in on him, continues to take him to this level that is beyond return. A lot of people get upset with the ending because they claim it to be a happy ending. I don't think it's a happy ending at all. If you were watching the first few minutes of this movie, I think that because at this time there were people that interfered with the ending of this movie and he wanted it to be a different way, but he had to make it this way so that it would appease studios. I think he just got him back. I think he's like, yeah, doesn't it look happy? But also, did you watch the first 20 minutes of this movie? And you're realizing, oh, actually, he's just put us into a sick cycle. Well done. And so this for me is a movie that I really like the lead, this Tyrone Power, because he gives me like George Clooney like vibes and feels, and that like good looking leading man that's willing to do anything he wants. I almost wish that he had been in the remake as opposed to Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper was fine, but George Clooney in that movie would have really been a good addition for this remake. But yeah, I finished with Nightmare Alley, and it is an essential noir in my opinion, and one that really does well in doing exposition, but it not feeling like exposition. So you get the story, you get everything you need, but it doesn't feel like you're being talked down to. So that is Nightmare Alley.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for going down this deep and dark, seedy underbelly alley of the crime-ridden city with us today. We appreciate you hanging out. We hope, yeah, you shake your head at me. That's fair. I get that a lot.
Oh, well.
We appreciate you just hanging out with us. We hope that you've enjoyed this conversation. Maybe you've seen these movies and we were able to bring them back to the forefront of your mind. Maybe you've never seen them before. And hopefully you paused before we went all spoilery and you went and checked out these films. Because they are worth your time. Shoot the Piano Player, Brick, and then maybe even taking some of these of our top 5 noirs and maybe checking them out for yourself. Maybe they will come into your top 5. Maybe they'll come into your regular rotation. So thanks for hanging out with us down this dark road, and we'll catch you next time, hopefully maybe with a little bit of light. We've got some Christmas and some winter episodes coming up. We would love to see you there. Love to hear from you if you've got some noir films that we missed, that you're like, hey, I really love this one. It's underseen or it's not talked about enough. Let us know. In the meantime, check out other movie podcasts. We always will point you toward Film Spotting with Josh and Adam. Check them out. Give them a listen and hear what they have to say. They actually recently did a recording of a discussion with Rian Johnson at a showing of Brick as part of their 20th anniversary celebration. So now that you've heard our discussion and you've seen the film, you can go and find their discussion with Rian Johnson, with the director of the film, and see, just his experience making it, what it was like, the story he was trying to tell, and check it out and get some more information about these films from the people who made them and who love them. So until next time, we will see you all later. Check out some great movies and see you on the flip side.
The bro abides.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
I'm finished.